Bölgede neler oluyor? Derin stratejist, bilim entalantıyır.
Washington has to walk on eggshells when it regards Turkey. Come further, the banks of Wall Street is by looting other countries, because Turkey is beginning to pursue Turkish interests and not interests dictated to Turkey from outside. The term deep state for me, and this is very personal because I've looked at this phenomenon for now more than 30 years in researches on the United States and how it became what it is today, which is not very good. The term deep state is a structure of influence, I would call it, controlled from outside any democratic process, completely not controlled by the voting will of the American people, but by an unseen network, kind of like a Freemason network, if you want, or like the network of Fethullah Gulen, the spider web, through the institutions of the United States government and all levels of government, to direct the energy of America for a certain purpose, but the purpose is not the purpose of the American people. The purpose is the purpose of those behind the deep state, the oligarchs of the United States, if you want to put it that way, the patriarchs, well, now the late David Rockefeller, but those types of people, the Bill Gates, who was a very, very close collaborator of David Rockefeller, George Soros, people like that. And the deep state are their hands and feet to accomplish their goal of trying to control the whole world. In my view, the deep state considers Turkey as a thing, not as a people, but a thing to be used to destroy. And right now, Turkey and its leadership have decided not to play that game. And that has really shocked some people in Washington. That has shocked some people in the military-industrial complex. It shocked many people in NATO Brussels headquarters, because Turkey is beginning to pursue Turkish interests and not interests dictated to Turkey from outside. That's my view of everything that I see, let's say, since about the last year to year and a half. Washington has to walk on eggshells when it regards Turkey, because, first of all, there's no question in my mind that the CIA and the Pentagon were behind the failed coup of July 2016, using the networks of Fethullah Gulen, which was a CIA project from the beginning. And after that failed, they had a real problem because they did not expect that President Erdogan would be alive to act on this. And the instruments that they are using now, short of a new attempted coup, they are using NGOs, regime change NGOs, like they did in Ukraine in 2014, or they did in Poland in 1989-90, and so forth. If that is successful, I don't know enough of the internal influence of the NGOs in Turkey to comment, but for sure they are using that. National Endowment for Democracy, Soros Open Society Foundation, human rights foundations everywhere, to say Turkey, the Turkish government is a violator of human rights, a violator of democracy, and creating a propaganda. This is the first step, creating a propaganda atmosphere that poisons relations with Europe, with Germany and Turkey, and so forth. And then the next step will be a carefully escalated series of financial warfare conducted by a special unit of the US Treasury. I should add that every time they have done these financial warfares in Iran several years ago and so forth, it's blown up in their faces, so it's not a very good tactic in my view. But they will try that, to try to create a crisis of the Turkish lira, to try to create economic and financial pressure. The good news, in my view, is that the Turkish government and the Turkish industry are turning increasingly toward the east and the northeast, toward Eurasia, which is certainly, Turkey is a vital part of, I would say, a crucial part of Eurasia. And the building up by China, by Russia, Iran, other countries to more or less extent, building up of new infrastructure that's going to create new markets for Turkish industry, to create new markets for Turkish export. And that, if that trend continues at the same time as creating a gold-backed lira with more and more gold backing the paper lira, in cooperation with the same thing that the Bank of China, People's Bank of China is doing, that the Russian Central Bank has been doing for the last several years, then you become less vulnerable to financial warfare. But this is what they are going to try. Belt and Road Initiative, as the Chinese now call it, it was originally called the New Economic Silk Road. Yeah. I was in China in June for a eyewitness tour of the development of the Silk Road, and this project is going to transform, and this is no exaggeration, is going to transform the world economy over the next 30 to 50 years. It's already beginning. It's going to create, through high-speed rail links, it's going to link the countries of Eurasia. Keep in mind that 40-some percent, 42% of world population exists inside the boundaries of Eurasia. And the Silk Road project includes deep water ports going all the way to Piraeus in Greece. It includes connections with Europe. It includes connections that are in early form, I would say, of dialogue between China and Turkey that will open up it will build new markets. It will open up parts of Central Asia that under the Soviet era, there was no money because of the Cold War, the military demands. There was no money to build up infrastructure in Tajikistan, in Uzbekistan, Central Asian countries and so forth. And now that's beginning to happen. These countries have the mineral wealth, everything the world needs in terms of healthy food, agriculture production. Turkey has as well. And if the trends that are going on in recent months in the Middle East to shift from the Washington war agenda toward a peaceful building up of building bridges with neighbors, not bombing bridges, then I see the Silk Road is going to transform Turkey, is going to transform really the world. And at a certain point, the European Union, which right now is, I would say, schizophrenic, divided between its connections historically going back to 1945 to, or even before that, to the Atlantic Bridge, to the United States, NATO, Washington, Pentagon, and the knowledge that the East, that connections with Russia, connections with China, connections with Eurasia in general, are where the future markets of German industry lie. They don't lie in America. America is bankrupt. This is something, I don't know if many people in Turkey really understand this. I write occasional articles about this theme in various Turkish publications, but the United States of America is technically bankrupt. The only way they can come further, the banks of Wall Street, is by looting other countries. England is not serious about the Silk Road. They only want to control developments to their interest. Their mentality is not to build up China or to build up Russia. Just look at the comments of their foreign secretary or their prime minister. But
the China?
Yeah. China, what is China's purpose in the Silk Road? China has a very real problem. It has created in a space of 30-some years the largest industrial nation in terms of physical product in the world. It's something more dramatic perhaps even than the great German industrial miracle from 1871 through 1914 that so terrified the British Empire. And because of that success, because of the hard-working success that the Chinese accomplished in the careful way they went about it, now Washington begins to feel threatened. So they began, Obama made probably his greatest mistake as president, and he made huge mistakes as president, but probably his greatest mistake was to declare the Asia pivot militarily from the Middle East into Asia to surround China militarily through bases and build up in Australia, in Indonesia, in Vietnam, in Japan, in South Korea, anti-ballistic missile systems, the THAAD system, and so forth. And as a response, China realized that they have to take major steps to defend themselves. And that was the birth of the new Silk Road in 2013 as Xi Jinping became president for the first term. And the Silk Road is an answer to two problems that China faced. One, military encirclement by the United States and by an American establishment that won't allow any nation to be sovereign, to follow its own road, to follow its own development in a peaceful way. They must be vassal states of Washington. They must obey what the banks of Wall Street or the politicians in Washington dictate. And China said, no, we know what the Opium Wars were. The Americans went with the British in 1840 to push opium on the Chinese population and destroy China. We don't forget that. So the Silk Road was at first a response to the danger of military cutoff of oil supply lines from the Middle East through the Strait of Malacca near Singapore. Then that's the whole question about bases in the South China Sea. That was a reaction to Pentagon aggression actions and not a provocative action by China. The second point about the Silk Road, China has built up, and I've been east and west, north and south over a period of 9 years now, many times in China, giving talks and meeting people and discussing with all levels of Chinese. And China has built such phenomenal cities that one can't imagine. In places I, to be honest, 3 years ago never had heard of. Kunming, near the border of Laos, I visited, and it's a city of 10 million people with high-rise skyscrapers, with modern Autobahn linkages, high-speed rail, and so forth. It's a crossroads city. Xi'an, also, where the original Silk Road had its origins, is one of the most modern cities I've ever seen. The Chinese problem is that they have to find new markets of growth for their economy and to reorganize their economy in a more rational way because the American model that they, for much of their economic model, took over 30 years ago is a failed model, and they have realized this. The Silk Road is an answer to that by building new markets. It's not about Chinese imperialism. Many people have the wrong understanding, but this is about building up and not tearing down. And this I'm convinced of. I've talked in depth with some of the leading architects, some of the leading think tank members in Beijing and other universities in China, and followed very closely the developments of the new Silk Road.
Ergün, bizde akademisyenler var, yani aydınlar, enteller, danteller, dolu bir yığın adam var. Dünyadan bir haberler. Evet. İnanılmaz haritalar çiziyor. Evet. Derinliğe
nasıl bir ufuk turu değil mi Bekir? Yani neler anlatıyor insanlar?
Nereye? Ve William Engdahl derin bir adam. Türkiye'ye ekonomik saldırı olacak. Ekonomiyle darbe girişimi olacak diyor.
Bütün kulvarlardan gelmeye çalışıyorlar. Ekonomi de bunlardan biri. Bu da bizim için sürpriz bir unsur değil. Daha önce de gördük. Şimdi de görürüz ama şu anda bilmeleri gereken şu ki Türkiye eski Türkiye değil. Önceden 10 milyon dolarla operasyon yapıyordu. Şimdi yapamaz. Öyle bir Türkiye yok. Şimdi burada anlamamız gereken şu Bekir. 1945'te dünyayı Sovyetler ve Amerika Birleşik Devletleri bir elmayı ikiye böler gibi ikiye böldüler. Bir taraf Sovyetlere, Moskova'ya bağlandı fiziken, fiilen. Diğer tarafta Amerika Birleşik Devletleri'ne düştü. Şimdi Trump 12-13 günlük bir geziye çıktı. Görünen gelişmeler, gidişat dünyanın Çin ve Amerika arasında G2 olarak yönetileceği şeklinde. Çin'e yakın ülkeler, Amerika Birleşik Devletleri'ne yakın ülkeler olarak yeni kartlar karılmakta. Eğer Amerika burada, Çin'in yerine İngiltere'yi de koyalım, unutmayalım bunu, Çin İngiltere ekseninin karşısında durmak zorunda. Amerika bence kendi rolüne çoktan razı. Hiç olmamaktansa olmak için elinden gelen her şeyi yapacak. Baktığımız zaman ortaklığın hayata geçmesinin işaretleri olarak Pentagon gitti, Afganistan'ı resmen aldılar. Pakistan'da hukuksal darbeyle yani İpek yolunun 1 ve 2. adımını ele geçirdiler. Son durak İtalya'yı aldılar. Türkiye ve İran arada kalan onların çok istedikleri ülkeler. Şimdi yeni dönemde, yeni düzende, yeni dünya dengesinde ülkelerin ait oldukları kampları göreceğiz. Ve her şekilde dünya bu yeni yolun üzerinden yükselecek. O eski işte soldu, sağdı, sosyalisti, komünisti, liberaldi, kapitalisti bunlar bitti. Yeni bir söylem, yeni bir dönem başlıyor. Yeni para, yeni sınırlar, yeni ticaret, yeni büyük güçler. Bizi bekleyen bunlar Bekir.
Yeni güçler bekliyor. Evet. Tabii bunun yanında yeni saldırılar da bekliyor. Bunlar hep olacak, olmaya devam edecek. Önemli olan biz nerede olacağız? Devletimizin yanında mı? Devletimizin karşısında mı? Sevgili seyirciler, William Engdahl'ı dinlediniz. Adam inanılmaz bir portföy çizdi. Dünyayı anlatmaya, kavgaları anlatmaya çalıştı. Ve diyor ki Türkiye artık kendi menfaatleri doğrultusunda baş kaldırıyor. Kendi menfaatlerini düşündüğü için Washington ve Pentagon'u şok ediyor. Bunu bir Amerika'nın dünyaca ünlü profesörü, derin adamı söylüyor. Türkiye kendi menfaatlerini düşündüğü için saldırıya uğruyor diyor. Devletimizin baş üstüne emredersiniz demediği için saldırıya uğradığını anlatıyor William. İçimizdeki bazı Jön Türklerde, biliyorsunuz Osmanlı'da Jön Türkler vardı. Bugün de Jön Türkler var. Onlar da Türkiye'ye saldıranlar gibi devletimize saldırıyor. Allah bizi Jön Türklerin şerrinden korusun. İyi geceler.